He loved skateboarding, rollerblading, camping. He was my favorite person in the world. I tell people all the time he's the only person I ever knew that never left me. Fentanyl. What is fentanyl? He took a half a pill. He should not be dead. My name's Angela Parkerson. I'm from Bardstown, Kentucky, and this is the story of my son, Nick Rucker, who's 24 years old, and he was killed by fentanyl on April 23rd, 2021 in Bardstown, Kentucky. And Nick was, he's 24 years old, but he was my third child out of 4. He loved hiking. He loved skateboarding, rollerblading, camping, just talking to people. He just liked having deep conversations. He was very, very intellectually smart, spiritually smart. He was my favorite person in the world. I tell people all the time he's the only person I ever knew that never left me. So that's kind of who Nick was here. I'm still trying to figure out how I got here, like how this happened, because Nick didn't have a history of drug use, but when I say drug use, he used marijuana. He did drink alcohol. But when I was told that Nick was dead, that was a shock, because, number one, what do you mean Nick is dead? Nick's not dead. Fentanyl, what is fentanyl? And they told me that he took a half a pill, and then they say, your son overdosed, and I'm like, how can you overdose on a half a pill? So Nick took that half a pill that he thought was Percocet. We were told by the police that we had to have an autopsy because there was a crime, and his dad and I both didn't want an autopsy, but they were like, this happened in the city, this is a crime, we're doing an autopsy. Because I working in atomic pathology, I know what that's about. His dad grew up in a funeral home. We just didn't want that, but they said we had to. Well, the shock of it all, of course, I don't know what's happening. My son is dead. That's crazy. First of all, that's not real. Anyway, a few months went by and we didn't really hear anything. 3 months after Nick was killed, I called the police station to talk to the detective, and he didn't know who my son was. And I started calling them out on social media about ignoring him, not doing anything. So I began an investigation where I went through his messenger messages and his bank accounts, and come to find out, my friends told me there was something up with my brother related to Nick, which he says he found Nick at my mom's house where Nick died. And what had happened that I found out later, my brother sent Nick money that day to purchase pills from somebody. Nick apparently got them, I don't know. So my brother says it's somebody in a different location in Louisville, Kentucky. But the police never asked anybody any questions. I told them when I found this out, I found the proof that my brother sent Nick money on the day he died for drugs, and they didn't even ask my brother any questions. Then I found another message where he's asking people for pills that he called Percocet on April 6th. Nick died on April 22nd. They never asked any of these people any questions. Still to this day, they haven't asked a single question. They treat my son like he doesn't matter, like he doesn't exist. And they told me, I had to make him submit to an autopsy that I didn't want, for them to do nothing, absolutely nothing. So, of course, I cut ties with my family because of that, because my brother was involved. But for 3 months, he solicited sympathy from me because I felt bad for him, because I thought he was upset that he found Nick. But come to find out, he was just upset because it could have been him, because he flushed those 3 pills down the toilet before he called 911. Because that night, Nick was on the phone with his dad. He had a job interview. He paid his car payment. He sold some stock. He was encouraging a friend to get a job, and we think that he took it because he wanted to get some sleep. And he only took half. He did not want to die. The other half is what they found and told me. They're the ones who told me he took a half a pill. Then I had to wait, several months because we didn't know what happened. Did he kill himself? Was he because he had been battling some depression? Looking back, it's probably related to the first time he came in contact with the pills, which was from my investigation. It was around July, August, September of the year before he died, and a woman he worked with gave him a pill. She gave it to him. He said, "What is that?" And she said, "Oh, you'll like it. It's good." And he's just like, whatever. My son Nick had what you call Asperger's, and I don't like to talk about it that much just because he didn't really like that to define him. But if you know what it means like socially awkward. Just, Nick, from my understanding from his actual friends, he did things socially if they did. But Nick never felt like he got drunk. He never felt like he got high. He just wanted to do what they were doing. And that they call that a recreational user, I think. Now I understand that. But this woman, after she gave him that pill, she started messaging him every day. "Hey, do you want in? Hey, do you want in?" And he was like, "Nah." And sometimes he'd say yes. But come something around September, October, Nick, my oldest son, called me and said that he had he was depressed, was suicidal, and I needed to come up there, that he had cut himself, which was so unlike Nick because Nick thought that was the most, selfish act. He would never. So, of course, I drove the 2 hours to go up there, and I was like, "Show me your arm." He wouldn't show me. Finally, he did. Long story short, he did. He agreed to even go to the hospital. He said he just wanted medication. He couldn't sleep. I had no idea that he had come in contact with these pills. He refused to take a drug test. But it wasn't unusual for Nick to do that because even when Nick was a kid, he didn't want you to cut his fingernails or his toenails or his hair because he felt like that was a part of him and you were violating him. So for him to deny that was not unusual. But of course, after he dies, I go back and I could have saved his life had I known. Had the people been able to help me instead of making the situation worse and arguing with him, maybe I could have went back and did something different, but I didn't know. But when your kid dies, I told people it was kind of like being hit by a truck and you're over here. Your body's here, but you're somewhere over there. And, you're alone. And my friend lost her son when he was 21. He was very close. He was like a second son to me. He died in a car accident. The community surrounded her and outpoured her with love. But my son died from a drug overdose. It's fentanyl poisoning, half a pill, but all of a sudden I'm a bad mother. He's a bad person. He's a drug addict who doesn't even deserve an investigation. And I've had to do all of this on my own because I had to cut ties with my family. I had no community support, so I really turned to things online. And I created a group called It's Okay Not to Be Okay because people wanted to medicate me. Even my job, they said I could take 3 days off. 3 days off when I lost my son. I said, "Well, you tell me if 3 days is good for you. If you lost your kid, then I'll come back in 3 days." And she was like, "No, what can I do?" So I took the short-term disability, 6 months, but they let me go after my FMLA, 13 weeks. So I then didn't have a job, but I couldn't go to work because I was devastated. And the job that I do, I look for cancer and disease, and I felt like it would be wrong of me to go and try to pretend that I'm doing something and potentially harm patients. I wouldn't do it. And I lost my job because of it, but if it was just me, I probably would have just forwarded on like I always did. But because it was Nick, he deserved to be grieved. And it mattered. So I wasn't just gonna go and pretend like everything was fine because it's not fun. You know, it's not fun. And even that time when I went to the doctor, because that was part of my 6 months of taking off of work, part of the thing was I had to take medication. I told them I'm not mentally ill. I'm grieving. My son was murdered. My son was murdered. My friend, she's like, oh, I understand I lost my son. Yes, but people respect you and love you. People hate my son and me, and he was murdered, and nobody cares. Nobody cares that he was murdered. He took a half a pill. He should not be dead. He thought it was a prescription pill. He should be alive. And not only does nobody care, like, all these terrible things are happening. I have to reach out. They're giving me medication that they gave him 3 pills. They keep increasing my dose. I told her, I'm like, I'm not gonna take that. Of course, I tried it first because I did feel like I was just gonna die. The first 2 weeks, I drank alcohol, 13 beers a day, just to keep myself from dying, because I felt like every minute I was dying. And I knew that was not going to work because every day it made it worse. So I was like, okay, I'll try their pills, which I did stop drinking the alcohol because I knew I couldn't do that. But I knew I couldn't do that either because it made me feel like a zombie. And I was just going to let it be what it was going to be. That's why another thing, I started talking to people online when I felt like no matter what. And then other moms would reach out and connect with me on it.
And these other moms are going through the same thing you're going through. Do you see the same, feelings and perception from other moms that they feel that no one cares about their child who's lost, that their child's now looked at as an addict, that they're looked at as a bad parent? Do you see that in other people?
Yeah, all across this country, kids are dying. And some kids do end up getting an investigation. It just kind of depends, and other kids don't. Just like Nick, nothing. They treat you like you don't matter. Your kid's an addict, and they know. We all know. We bond together on that because we all have it, and we celebrate the ones who do get that because we're happy that they're getting it, and we fight for new people coming in to try to help them get it. But you have kids all across the country. The youngest I know that is 13, but 13, 14, 15, 16, all across the country, and even babies, where it's in the home, accidentally ingest it. They even call those overdose. Like, how are those overdose? Even the community and the government, they still call this overdose. It says not overdose. Overdose is taking too much of a substance. This is poisoning. This is, here, take this glass of water, Michael. You asked me for water. You drink it. I put fentanyl in it. You die. Did I murder you? Or, and it's just going on like it's nothing. 107,000 people were killed the year Nick was killed. 107,000 people. It ruined my life. I will never be okay.
And now you've turned that pain into purpose. So what are you doing now?
Well, so after Nick died, it was the first Christmas because he died in April. So I really wanted, I couldn't get him anything for Christmas, and I really wanted to wait to honor him. I even sent the cops 3 boxes of donuts. Now that irony was Nick. After I realized, and I wrote on there, "You're never alone. Thanks for not giving up on Nick." I was really trying to encourage them. But then I bought these 600 shirts that I was going to make, and I didn't bring it today, but they're called Never Alone. And, they say supporting the fighter, honoring the taken. But I started to send them all across the country to connect with other moms. I was going to donate them all to the recovery center, but then I was like, well, I want to send one to this mom because she helped me, and I would put their kid's name under the Never Alone, and in the back it has a ribbon with Nick's name on it. And then I was like, well, it would be really cool to send one to every state. And then I got so much response out of it, and I started meeting people like, can I have one? What about me? And I was like, yes. So then I started keeping track with them, and I got every state in the country except for 3, including Canada and Mexico. So I have somebody in every state, multiple people. And then I also was able to donate some, and that just kind of started this movement, and I started making graphics and videos because the creativity is my outlet for my grief, because it helps me connect with others in a positive way and not deny my pain. And like I tell them when I go to rehabs and talk to them, I was like, yeah, I know you're in pain and it's legit. So is mine. Every day I want to be, like, I don't want to be here. Every day I wake up, Nick's still dead. Like, I get pain. I get it. Like, you know what I mean? I get it. But I still gotta go on. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm gonna do. So I get it that life is terrible sometimes. Like, yeah, 100% terrible. I know pain, but here's what I'm doing to try to help you. You might be sitting here thinking nobody cares about you. My son Nick, in the end, thought no one cared about him. I love my son more than anything in the world. Drugs do that. Drugs tell you no one cares about you. Drugs lie. And I tell them, if you're like me and you have to cut ties with your parents, I love you. Cannot I not love you enough for you to just hold on to that, for you to get this opportunity that my son was never even allowed. Before he knew what had happened, he was dead. And here you are with this beautiful gift. And I ask them, how many of you are drug addicts? How many of you thought you were a drug addict when you came in? Because I really wanted to know. A lot of them didn't raise their hand. Like one in particular, I'm like, what about you? What brought you here? He said he was Casey's Law, which, put in. And he said he was really glad he was there. And he loved hearing Nick's story because he really saw himself in it. And that made me and the other moms just really like, this is, like, it matters to them. They had never really considered that perspective of their mother. And they had me and Tammy signing their shirts as Chase's mom and Nick's mom, like we were some sort of little stars or whatever. But they was really connected to the message that we brought. And we were just talking about our kids.
But now you're messaging Nick's message from where he is, to kids, to families, to parents. You're going to carry this on. So this is pain to purpose now.
Right, exactly. And it's the only thing that I want to do anymore, because that day that Nick was killed, I was killed too. So everything about my life that could have been was taken away. Everything that, even like his sister's getting ready to graduate college, there's this air of something's missing. Because not only do I have to deal with it, my daughter, and Nick has 2 sisters and a brother and nephews and a niece that love him, but she was in college and she lost me too, because I'm so engulfed in this pain. I'm trying to keep it off of her and just encourage her to be healthy, but it affects all of us. There's 7 boys that love their Uncle Nick and a niece that love their Uncle Nick, and he was spent time with them every day, playing with them, taking them places, just teaching them guitar. He bought them all guitars for Christmas one year. He just really connected and spent time with kids, and they're just devastated by what happened to him. So it didn't just affect me, it affected our entire family.
But now with what happened, you're going to affect other families with hope and prevention, education, awareness all across the country.
That's what we want to do, because I don't want what happened to Nick to happen to someone else, because, Nick didn't know. I didn't know. I want people to know. Number one, I want to create awareness so people know. They don't know. Like, everybody who knows the word COVID should know the word fentanyl. Everybody. When they come out and give a COVID press conference, they should be given a fentanyl press conference. It is that level of a threat. The DEA calls an unprecedented treachery, mass murder threat, yet nobody's talking about it. The community won't talk about it. Our own president won't talk about it. I came from the DEA meeting. It was amazing. It was really great, but the people in charge wouldn't even say the word fentanyl. Wouldn't even say the word, to which I questioned, why won't you say the word? And I still get nothing, yet people continue to die. I do not want anyone in this amazing club that I'm in. I don't want anyone in it, because it's as amazing as it is a nightmare. Every day we wake up, we live a nightmare, but it's also really amazing the connection that we have, but we don't want anyone else in it.